welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have got it set in stone for the first time ever. Next week, Wednesday, June 17th, episode number 32 of Lucha Underground, Team TWitWoW will be, for the first time ever, doing Lucha Underground live reactions.
You're damn right. And it's for one reason, and that is that
something that we will discuss when it comes up.
Oh, you son of a... Okay. But we'll discuss it when it comes up, certainly. But this episode of Lucha Underground was once again magical. I was getting ready to say, before you made our announcement, we are officially on the road to UltimaLucha. Yes. 8 weeks.
You know what's really horrible, John? And I apologize to everyone that takes offense to this. I almost called it Lucha Mania.
That's quite all right, dude. That's quite all right. Perfectly understandable. But we are on the road to this show, the biggest event that Lucha Underground holds. And we have 8 weeks. 8, I'm sure, chaotic weeks
Dreadful,
to go.
Horrible, don't want to wait that long weeks.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, if tonight was any indication, I ain't even going to try and fantasy book an UltimaLucha card.
Oh
that
my God, no.
Somebody else.
Because here's the thing. It's crazy because going into tonight, I would have said, okay, UltimaLucha, Prince Puma versus Johnny Mundo. It's finally going to happen. But then, literally, like 5 minutes into the show, I was like, okay, we're going to get it. It's going to be Prince Puma versus Cage. And it's going to happen at UltimaLucha. And Cage is finally going to win the title. Then, a half hour into the show, I was like, okay, it's going to be UltimaLucha, Prince Puma versus Drago. It's going to happen. And then by the end of the show, it was, okay. It might be Prince Puma, but it might also be Johnny Mundo. And whoever it is going to face either Drago or Mil Muertes. I'm not sure. We'll see. And literally, over the course of an hour, my mind changed 4 different times on who might go against, or who might be vying for the championship at UltimaLucha. So at this point, the fact that my mind can change 4 times over the course of a 1-hour show, yeah, John makes a great point. There's literally no point in trying to fantasy book anything from here on out because there is nothing predictable about this promotion, except for the fact that it's going to be consistently amazing.
I'm just curious if when through that whole sequence you were kind of changing your mind that you just kind of threw the jigsaw puzzle up in the air and said screw it and you decided to do something else.
Yeah, the last one when freaking Katrina shows up and she's like, oh yeah, Mil Muertes gets a title shot.
And you're just like, I'm done. That's it. I quit.
Yeah, because I was like, all right, well, looks like we've got our main event for UltimaLucha set. It's going to be good. It's going to be either Johnny Mundo or Prince Puma against the guy that won the main event tonight, which we will talk about later. And yeah, it's gonna be a great match. And then that last segment happens, and I'm just like, okay, hands in the air, I'm done.
Yeah, it's like I was finally ready to laugh at Lucha Underground. I'm like, you think you're so smart? I finally got. Oh, Katrina. Oh, this segment.
Welp, I'm
Why
done.
Why do I try? But there is so much to talk about this show. So without wasting any more time, let's get into our first segment: Heat of the Night. And the only thing on fire is this goddamn promotion. I don't have a single complaint about it tonight. No nitpicks, no anything. I just want to get right into the discussion. But, of course, I always like to ask, Ashton, do you have any heats of the night tonight?
Well, yeah, we both had heats of the night tonight because Drago came back and he is from El Inframundo.
This guy right here. Yeah, I thought that was superbly well done. But, again, that'll be all a part of our formal discussion. So with that said, let us roll right into
brother.
You know it, our Lucha Underground review. And we start,
You almost went like 50% Hulk Hogan there.
Dude, I'm feeling it tonight, man. I'm feeling it. Yeah. All right. So we get started first with a little recap. I love that Lucha Underground does this, and I want to make a quick point. Ashton, real quick about Lucha Underground. This is kind of a new compliment I can give them. Because I was talking with my friend Angel, who you know is a more recent subscriber to TWitWoW, which I thank him very much for that. And he was talking about our video with the Paul Heyman discussion. And what he wanted us to talk about was when Paul Heyman said, I don't like when wrestlers pontificate. You know, they go out and they use part of their promo to kind of reset events. And the more I thought about it, the more it kind of went back to Lucha Underground. I love that they don't have their superstars do that. They just rely on the video package to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they have their superstars do more meaningful things.
Oh,
and
dude, here's the thing. There's a long list of things that WWE can learn from Lucha Underground. But to me, obviously, number one is continuity and being able to refer to yourself and like that, be able to kind of recognize that stuff's happened in your past and that stuff that happened in your past can affect the current and future. But the number two thing to me is that right there, having a reminder every week at the beginning of your show of everything that happened in previous weeks, if not months, that is going to be relevant on the show that's happening right now. Because that's exactly what Lucha Underground does. They don't show you irrelevant stuff. They don't show you every little detail of what happened the week before. They show you everything that's happened to lead up to, and the most important details that have led up to what's going to transpire on the show that you're about to see.
Absolutely. And again, I love that they do it through that medium rather than through their performers, because to me, first of all,
it saves so much time.
It saves so much time. It allows for more character progression. And what I like the most is there's a consequence for missing the show. And I feel like that actually regards the fans' intelligence more so than insulted. In fact, I think it's more insulting when you have the wrestlers come out and use Paul Heyman's term, pontificate.
You know what, though, John? You say that it sort of punishes people for missing the show. I would argue that it doesn't necessarily punish them, but it sort of forgives them for missing the show. Like, it's like, oh, hey guys, if you missed the show, or if you're just starting to watch the show, this is a bunch of stuff that's happened prior to tonight's show that's going to be relevant to tonight's show, so you don't get lost.
And I think that's an excellent counterpoint. I would certainly agree. I think when I use the word punish, it's like they expect you to keep up. They trust in you to keep up.
Right, yeah, because like to me,
all the time.
What I love about it is if you go to the Lucha Underground YouTube channel, I think it's at Lucha El Rey on on YouTube. If you go to their YouTube channel, you can watch, and I actually did this with a friend recently, you can watch basically just the previously on Lucha Underground videos, and you can watch every single one of those, and within less than an hour, you're completely caught up on all the relevant storylines.
Right.
Because they take the videos, the recaps that they show at the beginning of each show, and it's like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. And they take each one of those and they upload them to their YouTube channel. So you can just go to their YouTube channel, watch all of those, and all of a sudden now you know everything that's going on in Lucha Underground. It's a little bit fast-paced for my liking for that specific format. Like, I wish that somebody, if not Lucha Underground themselves, would take all of these clips and sort of combine them so that you get like a half hour worth of content that's just storylines, no matches, just all the stories, kind of like an amalgamation of all these stories mashed up into a more condensed thing that you can watch just to get caught up on everything.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea, but I really just wanted to touch on that because I remember that conversation, and this seemed like an apropos place to kind of have it out, so I appreciate you having that discussion with me.
Right.
So we do get a recap of all those storylines, but then our first segment is like a cinematic segment because we see Drago on the roof of, I'm guessing the temple.
Yeah, it is. It's the roof of the temple, and he just, like, the first thing that you see, first of all, it's like, oh, look, it's Drago, because he's got such a distinct look, and the mask and the sort of armor that he rocks, it's awesome. But then next thing you know, he spreads wings. So now Drago has wings, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, did WWE send a scout to this taping of Lucha Underground? But no, they couldn't have possibly, because this wasn't part of the taping. This was a backstage segment, so you've got to wonder, like, who did it first between Finn Balor and Drago with these wings?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I love the look regardless, and it was so cool how Drago was kind of built up throughout the night, leading to the final segment, which we will, not the final segment, but the final match, I guess I should say, which we will get to later. So yeah, really cool way to start the show. I think it sets the perfect tone for what's to come. After that, Ashton, because I don't want to lose track of anything, we do go...
Well, now, I know that you're going to forget about this part, and if you didn't, I apologize for underestimating your ability to remember stuff, but the first important thing that I do want to point out, commentary, actually.
Yeah.
That's where you were going to go?
Yeah.
Okay, then I do apologize for undermining your ability to remember this stuff. But I personally, I would not have remembered if I didn't write it down. So that's just me projecting my lack of good memory onto you, and I shouldn't have. But yeah, Vampiro Vampiro apologizes for what he did last week. And I'm sitting here thinking, why are you apologizing? You did what anybody should have done. You and Stryker are the first line of defense if anything that was about to happen like that is about to happen. And he apologizes, but then they do specify, and Stryker does kind of praise him, that Sexy Star is going to be out for a few weeks, but not months because of Vampiro.
Dude, I love how they handle certain things, and this is only the first instance of two in particular that I do want to talk about. But yeah, I'm glad they addressed that straight away. They didn't try and sweep it under the rug or save it for maybe a mid-time segment where Matt Stryker may look over to Vampiro and be like, hey, now, you want to explain what happened last week? No, they cut to it straight away. I love that.
Bud. The one thing that I think that one of my favorite parts, and I really shouldn't even say that because everything is my favorite part about Lucha Underground, but the one thing that is contextually relevant right now that I want to talk about and praise them for is that they always, now I shouldn't say always, but a lot of the time they do a really good job of starting an episode the way that the last one left off.
Right.
Like with this one, we had Vampiro. Last week, the show closed out with him confronting Pentagon Jr. and then walking to the back, and now tonight, the first thing that we get after the cinematic stuff that happens at the beginning of the show, the first thing that we get inside the temple is an explanation. He apologizes, and we find out about Sexy Star being out for a few weeks, but not months, and that kind of thing. And I just love it. And they did that, I remember the very first episode they did that with, and I started noticing it then too. Because the first episode, the main event was Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma, but then after that match was over, they got attacked by the Crew. And then the very first match on the second episode was the Crew versus Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. So they've been doing it consistently, and it's been great.
Yeah, dude, they've got such a great format. And I loved when you brought that up the first time, because you have brought this up before, and I'm glad that you keep bringing it up because they keep doing it. And I think
that's one of the things, too, is that if you keep doing things right, I'm not the type to just sweep it under the rug and be like, yeah, you did it right before. I'm not going to praise you for it more than once. I am going to consistently talk about how great it is, because to me, when you stop praising something for being good, that raises the chances of it not happening anymore. And I don't ever want this to stop happening.
Exactly. I mean, look, we're always ready to heap blame or criticism on other promotions when they do things wrong consistently.
Yeah.
It should be true for the inverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. So with that, now you can kind of. Oh, wait, no. Now I remember, because I did want to mention commentary, but then we have Dario Cueto in the ring.
Yep.
And that's how we know we're on the road to UltimaLucha, because he says,
he says it basically.
Yeah, he says in 8 weeks. I'm not even going to try and do a Dario Cueto impression.
No, you were on a roll though. You almost had it.
I'm not going to risk it, man. I'm not going to risk it. But 8 weeks, UltimaLucha.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. There you go. The biggest matches, it's the biggest spectacle. Dario Cueto, and especially, again, Ashton, you talked about fans being rewarded. If you know what Lucha Underground's about, if you know their MO, so to speak, and their aesthetic, you have legitimate reason to get excited when Dario Cueto's talking about this event.
Yeah.
Because he just makes it seem like it's the end-all, be-all for Lucha Underground, which it is. And he's already starting to lay out matches. I mean, the first thing is Prince Puma will be defending his Lucha Underground Championship against the winner of, originally it was a triple threat, but we'll get to that later.
No, actually, it was originally set to be a fatal four-way match. It was originally going to be Cage, King Cuerno, Hernandez, and Phoenix. But then he said about but Phoenix was taken out in the death match by Mil Muertes a couple weeks ago, so I guess it'll just have to be a triple threat.
Right. So, yeah, I love that, too, that we just keep in mind that Mil Muertes destroyed Phoenix.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, too. It's the continuity. They have this match set up where it's everybody that Prince Puma has ever defended his title against. And Hernandez, Cage, Cuerno, and Phoenix were the four guys that were, still in the temple. He didn't count Drago because he was banished from the temple. And B, somebody that Cueto didn't have bigger plans for, which we'll talk about later.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I like that. And then he says, and, another match I'd like to see. We're going to feature legends. In fact, a legend that appeared on the very first episode of Lucha Underground, Blue Demon Jr. And Blue Demon Jr. is actually here. That's his cue to come down to the ring. So he does. Oh. He's in a suit. And then Cueto pretty much explains to him, it'd be great to have you on UltimaLucha, but if I'm going to put you in a match, I have to make sure you're not rusty.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a rematch, that same match they had on the first episode against Chavo, Guerrero, and Chavo comes out, and he's with the crew in tow, and he's looking all smug and confident, and Cueto informs Blue Demon Jr. that, hey, you know, unlike your first match, in this match, anything goes.
Yep.
And, yeah, I mean, Ashton, do you have anything you want to say about Dario Cueto's announcements or anything, or do you want to just get right into Chavo versus Blue Demon Jr. here?
Well, as far as the announcement goes, I love that they've announced this far out. First of all, the tension and the anticipation is just going to be balls to the wall from here on out, because if you think about it, with WWE, they have, I mean, you figure January so they have about 9 to 10 weeks between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So I love that they're kind of giving themselves about the same amount of time, but again, they don't have pay-per-view, so it's almost going to be even more anticipation because there's no break in between that can kind of be like a little miniature blow-off before the big blow-off. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I love that they're giving themselves 8 weeks to build this up, but I think that what I like most about this is that he immediately acknowledges the championship is the main event, and that is the first match that we need to find out who's going to be in it.
Right. And you know what I love, too, again, as you could tell by this episode, which we'll get more into as the show progresses, I really think they're going to take liberties with that little asterisk that says card subject to change, because the one thing we've said about Lucha Underground, and I love that you said this, because I've thought about Lucha Underground in a whole new way since you said it the first time. This is a show about a wrestling promotion, and I think because of that, it can take certain liberties when setting up a match card.
Right. I mean,
and
if you think about it,
out.
if you think about, like, say, for example, Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World is a television show about a family and a high school, right?
Right.
This is a television show about a wrestling promotion. It's kind of difficult to grasp when you first hear it, but when you watch enough episodes of Lucha Underground, it will eventually click. And once you get it, you embrace it, and it's just amazing to experience.
Absolutely. So I'm really looking forward to how they're going to build, how these matches are going to come together. And see, another thing, too, that I just want to mention before we get into Chavo vs. Blue Demon Jr., I think another advantage they have in building this card is that they've really been building this card, really, if you look about all the overarching feuds and everything, since the first episode. Yeah,
right.
So, you know, all season.
Yeah.
So it's not like WWE where it's like, okay, this pay-per-view ended, let's reset everything and begin anew with just 4 weeks.
And that's my big thing. I used to think, and I still think they used to. From what I can understand, the WWE used to have a WrestleMania happen, and then literally within a day, if not at least a week, they would have plans for the main event and some 2 or 3 big matches for the following year's WrestleMania and how they were going to build it throughout the following 365-day year.
Right.
It's pretty clear to me that they only do that very rarely nowadays, maybe with 1 or 2 matches, but I love that Lucha Underground has had everything that they wanted to do on UltimaLucha. It's like they booked everything backwards. Like they have this match list of what they want to be, these big, huge matches that'll be gigantic blow-offs, and they work their way back. How do we tell this story so that it makes sense and leads up to that point? And that's what they're doing.
Absolutely. So, with that said, first matchup, Blue Demon Jr. versus Chavo Guerrero, and anything goes kind of matchup.
Can I just say this is a borderline squash match?
Yeah, it really was. But I think it was booked to perfection here. I really enjoyed it because, A, you catch Blue Demon Jr. off guard because he's not even in his ring gear. And, B, you have the crew, Cortez Castro and Mr. Cisco, with Chavo at ringside. So they're really able to...
And then you slap on the anything goes rule.
Exactly. Like, everything was working against Blue Demon Jr., and like a true babyface at times should be booked. It's not about overcoming those odds because you knew Blue Demon Jr. wasn't going to. And they just picked him apart. And I think this was perfect because, the recent revelation that Chavo, is with Dario Cueto and now he's aligned himself with the crew, he needs to be strong here. And they certainly made the right outcome. Yeah. They just really put the boots to him. It ends with, the crew restraining Blue Demon Jr., on the floor so Chavo could hit the frog splash, and he gets the win after, a brutal beatdown on Blue Demon Jr.
I think this is the first time I've ever seen that frog splash get booed, too.
Yeah, really. And Chavo emerges victorious. And given a segment that he would have later in the night, his potential UltimaLucha match could be very, very interesting but we'll talk about that a bit later. Do you want to say anything about this opener before we move on?
No, I think that this opener told the exact story that it was supposed to, but I also think that it was probably the least interesting segment on this show.
Definitely.
Because this was like one of those things where, like, it had to be done, but it's like, let's just do it and get it out of the way so that we can move on from it.
You said it perfectly, because I was even getting ready to say, I think this match is more about just reaching a particular destination than anything else. So
yeah, this was one of the few cases where it was more about the destination than the journey.
Exactly. So what do we have after this, brother?
Oh, man. After this, we got another Drago segment. They showed him entering the temple with his wings spread, and then as he's walking, he kind of lowers the wings and just kind of, gets that sort of hitch in his step, and he's got a purpose, man. He knows what he wants tonight.
Yeah, he is focused. He's, like you said, walking with a purpose. We don't know what that purpose is, but, I mean, we soon find out.
Right.
After that, Ashton, I don't want to jump the gun here, so correct me, but didn't we get the six-man, the trios matchup?
Nope.
No, we didn't. Okay, so what came after
we
this?
actually had, in between the Blue Demon and Chavo match, we actually had, between that and the second match, we had 3 different cinematic sort of backstage segments. So the first one was just they showed that clip of Drago walking into the temple. The second one, though, was Chavo going to the prison to talk to Black Lotus.
Right.
And she tells him about how he betrayed El Dragon Azteca and that Mexico's going to be after him. And he says, after what I did to Blue Demon tonight, nobody in Mexico has the balls to do anything to me.
Right. So he feels like he's got a chip on his shoulder again.
No, he feels untouchable, man.
Yeah.
He feels like he's got Cueto's boys protecting him. Now, to me, if the only protection that you have now, this is all that we know. Oh, we need to talk about something else. Last week, when Chavo was talking to Cueto and Cueto asked him what he wanted, and he said 24 around-the-clock protection in Mexico, Cueto then did say, what do you really want? And we got a cliffhanger. They cut away from that. So Chavo's getting more than just round-the-clock protection.
Right. And I just wonder what that is.
Well, I almost wonder if the match with Blue Demon tonight might have been a part of it or the entirety of it.
Yeah, and I was about to pose the same thing to you. It's funny how our minds are working on that level there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, at Guerrero, they always talk about, the thievery and the dishonesty. I think they try and get it while the getting's good, and I don't know if a match would be sufficient to kind of whet Chavo's appetite, his greed.
But that's the thing, though. What if the match with Blue Demon, the reason that he wanted it wasn't necessarily, I want to get my revenge because he beat me before. It was more along the lines of making him untouchable. That's kind of the idea, right? He tells Black Lotus here, after what I did to Blue Demon, nobody in Mexico has the balls to do anything to me. He probably knew that going into it.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point there. I think Blue Demon Jr. was meant to be an example of, kind of the new Chavo coming in, with the crew in tow and everything, and he's thinking, well, when I'm done with this punk, who is a legend and who's revered in Mexico.
And really, he's the reason that Chavo was in trouble with Mexico in the first place.
Right.
Because the chair shot to Blue Demon's head, and now all of a sudden you've got Conan coming after you telling you that La Raza is angry.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Chavo just feels like he got that burden off his shoulders after that decimation of Blue Demon Jr.
Yeah.
But here's the question, Ashton, and I'm going to pose this to you. Are we looking potentially at Chavo Guerrero versus El Dragon Azteca at UltimaLucha? Is that
I don't know. I hope that... Here's my thing, John. This is such a late developing story. I almost feel like this is more of a Season 2 blow-off than an UltimaLucha Season 1 blow-off.
I'm inclined to agree with you at this moment.
And I kind of feel the same way about Matanza. Like, if we don't see Matanza for the rest of Season 1, I might be a little bit miffed, but it'll be more like that fan anticipation than sheer, like, why didn't you do this? It doesn't make sense kind of thing.
Oh, my God. Matanza's another thing.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing, though, is like the whole story with Matanza is it feels like such a big deal that if they didn't want to show Matanza, even like, here's my thing. The blow off to the entire first season could literally just be revealing what Matanza looks like, and it would be worth it.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
And it doesn't, here's the thing. Here's the horrible thing. it doesn't even need to be like a face shot. You could just show like him standing in a shadowy hallway where all you see is like a silhouette with very, very few details. And just the imposing figure being visible for the first time ever, where you're not just seeing a shadow, would make the whole thing worth it.
I think what I love about the whole Matanza thing is I think it takes a lesson, oddly enough, from the Alfred Hitchcocks of the world that always said the most terrifying thing is the human imagination.
What you can't see, yeah.
Exactly. And
Well,
Matanza's a product of that.
I know that you're talking about Alfred Hitchcock, but to me, the most recent thing to me that's relevant to that is the old Slender Man game. It's not even old. It's been out for like 2 years now, not even.
Right.
But the idea is you're always more scared of something that you know is after you, but you don't know where it is. It's like you said, the human imagination is horrifying because you can drive yourself crazy without ever seeing something.
Absolutely.
Like back when I was in college, I had an idea of making like a comic book or like a fan fiction or something like that of a non-existent superhero.
Uh-huh.
Where literally just the town starts telling, like the news outlets start telling stories about muggers getting beaten up and stuff in the night, and it's all completely fictional, but it lowers the crime rates in the town because people are afraid of this fake superhero.
Well, that's really cool. I like that.
But that's kind of like where I'm going, though, is that like it's all
Right.
about the human imagination, and you're always more afraid of what you know exists, but you don't know anything about.
Exactly.
And it's sometimes it's even scarier if you don't know for sure if it exists.
Which I think, and here's the thing too, because I think it serves a multifaceted purpose. Because A, it raises the intrigue about the Matanza character itself, right, and breeds that fear. B, I think it makes Black Lotus look more like a badass because we have all this fear and this trepidation, and she's wanting to face this thing head on.
Well, but you know what though? She wanted to face it head on before she knew what it was, and El Dragon Azteca kind of filled her in.
Exactly. And all these elements are going to converge at some point or another. And I'm telling you, I don't think any of us are prepared for the payoff.
I can't wait for El Dragon Azteca to have some kind of a role that's actually something in the temple.
Yes. I mean, I'm wondering everything about El Dragon Azteca, but that could be another conversation entirely.
Do you have any idea how many times I've Googled El Dragon Azteca to no avail whatsoever? I don't even know who's under the, like, I don't know, I shouldn't say who's under the mask. I don't know what the name of the performer is, if the guy's been in AAA before, if they've been on any kind of television before. I don't know anything about this guy, except for the fact that he's Lucha Underground's sort of overseeing force of good.
Do you know how amazing that is, though? Like, think about this for a second. In the information age that we live in, where most wrestling information is at our fingertips.
Well, and I mean, even like Dario Cueto. If you look up Dario Cueto, you can find the actor's name. You can find out that he was on an episode of Workaholics, for God's sake. So, like, the fact that there's a character, and it's not just him, obviously, there are multiple characters on this show that have been so well protected by Lucha Underground that there's literally no information on them, at least not that I've been able to find. Like with El Dragon Azteca, it's mind-blowing in today's age.
Yeah, it makes me feel like a kid again, and I love it. But moving on from this segment, what was our next segment? Because you said there were multiple like this.
Yeah. This is the last one before the next match. Drago and Cueto again. Drago creeps up on Cueto and tells him that he's had a title match against Puma for the title. Well, that was redundant. So he should be in tonight's match to determine who faces Puma at UltimaLucha. And then he basically, like, he's kind of like really violent and aggressive, and he turns around and is like, imagine what I'll do to Hernandez tonight if you let me. And then he screams out, fight! Like, let me fight! He's freaking out. And Cueto, just like taken aback, he's like, look, man, I'm impressed that you found a loophole, but you can have your match tonight, but if you don't win, not only will you still be banished from the temple, but you're going to have to leave your mask behind as well. And Drago is just like, deal. That's it. It was so good.
Drago was all in, man, and Cueto loves it. That's the response he seeks. That was such a well done segment. I don't think I've ever been.
I love that
more
Cueto
intimidated by
just
Drago.
keeps raising the stakes too. Like, look, man, you are banned from this temple, but we could do a little double or nothing if you really want to.
I wonder if, like, Cueto is like a gambling problem, and I wonder if, like, that temple ties into anything. Because, yeah, he just keeps upping the ante a little bit.
How do you think he got enough money to buy the temple?
That's a very legitimate point. Yeah, and I love, too, because we always talk about Lucha Underground performers and speaking. I love that Drago spoke with purpose here. No wasted words. He knew what he wanted.
And
he
you know what? I'm going to give him props. His English, not perfect, but still very impressive for a non-native English speaker.
Exactly. Like, all I'm looking for, and I'm sure you're the same way, if I can understand you, it's good enough for me.
Exactly.
I just want to understand what you're saying, and yeah, I had no problem with Drago. So, excellent segment here.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved this segment. This is probably my favorite non-in-ring segment of the, well, second favorite, because there's something coming up after this next match that John freaked out about.
Damn right there is.
But yeah, this is great stuff. I love Drago's new look too. That's the biggest thing to me, is that he's got this whole like black dragon thing going on, man. And I loved the blue, and I even dug the red for his last appearance, his most recent appearance, not this one, for the title match where he got banned. But dude, this black dragon look is so legit. I wonder if he's ever going to turn into a white dragon. These are the things that go through my mind.
I wonder if like the dark, like the black look is like the darkness in his heart because he's been carrying around like that loss to Puma, and then maybe he'll become a white dragon when he's like the champion and he's purged and he's on top of the world. I don't know.
You think he's going to be a champion someday here?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Dude, with this promotion, anything's possible. I think Marty the Moth could be a freaking world champion.
Oh,
so.
Dude, I think Marty the Moth has a better chance of being champion than Drago.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Marty the Moth, yeah, he's a weird bird, but yeah,
he's not a bird. He's a moth.
He's a moth.
Different flying creature.
Yeah, of course. But what's next?
Up next was our second match of the night: the Disciples of Death. In their first, it's so funny because wasn't it literally just 2 weeks ago where I was like, I don't think they're going to be in ring action yet. It seems too early. They just debuted, and now tonight, here it is. So yeah, the Disciples of Death taking on the team of Bengala, I don't know how to pronounce it perfectly, but Mascarita, Sagrada, and Pimpinela, Escarlata. Those two are back, which is great. Great to see them back. And yeah, this is a very, very, how do I say, diverse team going up against the Disciples of Death.
Okay, now, I'm going to be honest with everybody. When it concerns the Disciples of Death, I'm probably going to go on a little bit of a tangent, so to make sure that Ashton gets his thoughts out, I would like you to go first, so I don't feel very disrespectful, because I've got a lot to say about Disciples of Death, but I want your thoughts first.
Well,
this match.
I hope I don't say anything that you were planning on saying then.
It's all right if you do. It's all right if you do, 'cause then it's, yeah.
I'm just going to go through with the notes that I wrote, because basically when I'm watching this, I have to take notes so that I don't forget stuff.
Right.
The Disciples of Death are kind of difficult to tell apart, but one of them wears a shirt, and then between the two guys that don't wear a shirt, one of them has like a weird design on his ears. So they are possible to tell apart. I just don't remember their names for the life of me. They do have individual names though. But then I have on here that it was a solid match. I did really like it, Bengala. He's really impressive. He does a lot of like jumps on the ropes, almost like what Aerostar does a lot. And he's really good. Pimpinela actually got a lot of offense on these guys, which surprised me because I thought that this was going to be just like a squash match. And at one point it sort of devolved into a squash match, but Pimpinela and Bengala both really got a decent amount of offense. But at the end of the day, these guys are absolutely ruthless. They're so aggressive, so well coordinated. It's almost Shield-esque the way that these guys just systematically took Bengala, Mascarita, and Pimpinela apart. And to me, what's really sets them apart is that they're not afraid to fight people that aren't the same as them. They're not afraid just to fight people that aren't just regular 6-foot-tall male masked wrestlers. Like they don't care about fighting against an Exotico. They don't care about fighting against a mini. And to me, that means that they probably won't have any kind of hesitation to mix it up with Ivelisse either if they should meet. But here's my thing. At the very end of this match, Katrina gives Pimpy the lick of death right before the Disciples of Death set Pimpy up for their finish, which was really just ominous. And I wonder if Pimpy's even going to be back by the end of this season, or if that was like, that's it, Pimpy's out. So to me, that's kind of my take. I loved the finisher too. It was like a super high impact sit out face buster. So that's what I have to say. Now, John, you've got a lot to say, so go.
Okay, first of all, I agree with all of your notes, and I'm really glad now that I gave you the floor first. Because the two big things I really want to say, just regarding Disciples of Death, though a quick side note, Bengala is awesome. Love Bengala.
Yeah.
Disciples of Death, loved love the entrance and just the whole look and packaging of these guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a standard point. The second point is a bit more nuanced because, believe it or not, this match was close to being a heat of the night for me.
What?
Now, let me explain. See, that's why I let you go first. I didn't like how much offense Pimpinela,
Mascarita, you thought
and
that this should have been a squash match from the start.
Yes, but here is where it's so freaking good, right? Because it's going that way, and I'm like, man, I like these guys. I like Pimpy and Mascarita, and again, Bengala's awesome. So
you'll notice, though, I mean, as much offense as those people got, the Disciples of Death really did not sell much, if at all.
They didn't sell much of it at all, but here's the big thing that I could not wait to talk about, because I'm like, oh my god, love that so much. And we have to give a big up here to Vampiro and, yes, Matt Striker. In fact, Matt Striker in particular.
Oh, the Katrina thing.
The Katrina thing, and Matt Striker said a line that I'm like, now it makes sense to me. Because I think it was Vampiro that said, Katrina said, enough's enough. They've gone along with the gags, and now they're dominating. And you notice, that's when it really did devolve into a squash match. But then Matt Striker said, well, it's a lot like life, isn't it? We go with the jokes and the crap, but death catches up to all of us. And I love that. I love that they could go along with it, knowing in the back of their minds, we're going to take you anyway. So you can laugh and you can dance and you can get in the lap of the audience, but at the end of the day, we're putting you down. And it doesn't matter. And that's what made this match so different. Because here's the thing. If it was a squash match straight from the start like I had wanted, they would be no different from any other kind of intimidating, brooding, hulking kind of character that comes in and imposes their dominance. Right. I would have loved it, but
it would have basically just been 3 versions of Mil Muertes.
Exactly. But by doing it this way, it's almost more intimidating because it's not the fact that Pimpy, Mascarita, and Bengala are so good. It's that the Disciples of Death are so patient, and they take their time taking you down. Freaking love this, dude.
Did you kind of note the Shield-esque isolation, too?
Definitely. Towards the latter end of the matchup. Yeah, and that triple team finisher, I approve. I was like, that is awesome, because they get him in the crucifix position, and you got all the symbolism, and then you slam him down. And I told you with the whole Phoenix feud a couple episodes back on Lucha Underground, and you really liked that comparison. I said Katrina was succubus-like. Yeah. And, even commentaries like, oh, with those licks, she takes part of the soul. Well, I mean, there you go.
I think that another thing that's really cool about their finisher, normally when you get someone up in that sort of crucifix-looking thing, I'm thinking, okay, power bomb, or maybe they're gonna toss the head up and do a really high impact. What's it called? Okay, when you do a 3D, what's Devon doing in that move?
Isn't Devon doing the flapjack and bubble?
Yeah, the flapjack. That's what it is. And they could have made it a really high impact, but no. Rather than flipping the head over and doing a high impact flapjack, they flipped the legs over and they just drove. I think it was Pimpy. Head first into the canvas. Yeah. It was so good.
I love it, dude. I'm still calling it that these guys are going to be our next Trios Tag Team Champions. I just have a feeling.
It does make a lot of sense, especially because, like I said, they do not care if you are male, female, exotico, tall, short. They don't give a crap. They're going to just pick you apart slowly, and you're not even going to realize you're losing until it's too late.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love these guys. Love that commentary had their back. God, commentary is getting really, good for me.
They are so good, dude.
They really, because they were
I absolutely love Vamp, but I can't take anything away from Striker. He's improved. It feels like every episode this season. Just, he's gotten better and better and better. And, going back and listening to episode 1, there were a few moments where I would cringe at some of Striker's stuff, but, dude, he's so good. I wonder if it's because, he's been kind of branching out and, he worked the Wrestle Kingdom show, he worked the AAA Lucha Libre, although I guess that was after these tapings, but still, the fact that he has improved so much over the course of this season, it's mind-blowing to me. I don't think I've ever seen somebody tangibly improve over such a short period of time as opposed to the way that Striker has.
Absolutely. That's why I had to give him his due, especially tonight, because that, I think, made me look at the match in a whole new way. And I'm so glad he didn't take that point because I really wanted to make it. But, yeah, I'm just so glad we both got to talk about that matchup, and that's really the big point I wanted to make.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, it's time to talk about it, John.
It's time to talk about it, my friend.
Johnny Mundo confronts Dario Cueto about not being in tonight's match for the number 1 contendership to go against Puma Lucha, UltimaLucha. Cueto tells him that he sees him as the future of Lucha Underground. My favorite line in this, though. So what? You gave me a black eye. I look amazing in sunglasses.
Yeah, these two played really well off each other. Mundo pretty much demanding, why am I not in this position? And Cueto says, well, I expect you to be champion at UltimaLucha. And it pretty much, kind of sings Johnny's praises. And he says, when I saw you put Patron through that window, and I saw, the bloodlust in your eyes and just like the real evil in you, I wanted to see that unleashed on Prince Puma. And I want to see that unleashed all night long. Because next week, you're going to take on Prince Puma for the Lucha Underground Championship in an Iron Man match. Now, this is probably the point where you expect me to scream, fangirl.
He got that out of the way during the show.
I did, but I want to take this time to say something anyway, if I may. If you've been following TWitWoW from the beginning, and you know me, or maybe you've been even following me further back before I did this as pacifist, and you know the kind of Mundo fan I am, I take this very seriously because I make you a promise. I promise you, if you tune in next week to live reactions, no matter the outcome, win or lose, you are going to see a fandom the likes of which you can't even conceive. So I am asking you, all of our loyal followers, old and new, I say you can't miss out on any episode, and that's true, because I do believe we are the best wrestling podcast made for you guys, by you guys, on the web today. But you're going to want to be there next week. I promise you that. Because it's 2 men, 1 war, 1 championship, 1 hour, and in the final 3 seconds, 8 years could vanish, and in its place, 1 mark out. That's all I have to say about that. There's not going to be any rapping at the mouth, any fangirling, any high-pitched voice, because that's not what this is about. I am just telling you that if you really enjoy high-quality internet content, you are going to want to join us next week. I promise you that.
Cut a promo on the fans, brother.
Absolutely. So that's all I got to say. You know what? And on the side of John, I mean, you know me. I freaked out. You couldn't even really hear the song because I was freaking out so loud, which I do apologize.
I turned you down a notch so that I could hear it. That's how I heard Dario Cueto's line about sunglasses.
I'm happy for Mundo because his favorite wrestler ever is Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
And Shawn Michaels and the Iron Man match, intertwined. So the idea that Mundo gets to compete, at least to my knowledge, in his first Iron Man matchup for a world title, just goosebumps. So, yeah, I'm all in next week. We did the 30-second hot seat on Raw just this past Monday, and you said you're going all in. And I said that Mundo was going to be the next contender. Well, here we are. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, man. How wonderful is it, though, that here we are, episode 32 is coming up. So 31 weeks later, and the main event of episode, or 30 weeks later, no, it would be 31. 31 weeks later here, the episode 1 main event is going to be a 60-minute Iron Man match spanning the entire show.
Dude, I have a very strong feeling that this matchup's going to be added to my Match of the Year candidate list.
It might
just
be
a very strong feeling.
Literally the match of the year.
You won't even have to talk to me when we get to our award jobs. I'll be like, John, we already know what your match of the year is. Hey, that's not fair, Ashton. I could have been different. It was Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma, right? Yeah, damn it. So, who knows? We'll see.
That's great. Yeah. That match was my second match of the year, but come on, guys. Nakamura versus Ibushi, though.
Nakamura versus Ibushi, and all the while I'm just like,
Then again, G1 Climax is coming up in August, man. I don't know.
Wrestling's just so good right now. I'm so happy. I'm in my happy place.
It's amazing. Oh, right. Well, I'm shocked that we got through that segment so quickly.
Yeah. I got my fangirling out with you, and that's why I'm going to have a whole hour to show it to everybody next week. So, no reason to,
keep it in your pants.
Exactly.
All right. Well, next up, we had our third match of the night. Cage versus King Cuerno versus Hernandez versus Drago The winner gets a Lucha Underground Championship match at UltimaLucha.
What did you think of this, man? Because I loved it. I love this main event.
Let me put it this way. This was a great match, but would I put it in the Lucha Underground list of all-time greats so far? No.
I would agree with that assessment. I think
because, like, to me, when you've got like Johnny Mundo versus King Cuerno in the cage, Grave Consequences, Aztec Warfare, that 7-way match for the first Aztec medallion, Johnny Mundo versus Puma the first time in episode 1, the triple threat, Drago, Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. Like, there are so many matches that I would rank for Lucha Underground above the, even Puma versus Hernandez, and on that same show, the main event, the death match between Mil Muertes and Phoenix. Like, that's 2 matches in Lucha Underground history that I would rank above this one. But that's not to say that this was a bad match. This was still a really, really good match. It felt kind of disjointed to me, though.
You know what? It was a bit perplexing, right? Because I loved how these guys worked together. Make no mistake. As far as like the
I think that the entire dynamic between Cage and King Cuerno, I love the story that they were trying to tell, but I just feel like it took away from the match.
Yeah, there was like a disconnect for you.
Yeah.
Where there was kind of a disconnect for me, and not in a bad way, because I'm definitely intrigued where it's going. But that's why I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the whole kill shot King Cuerno thing?
Yeah. Why do you keep on saying King Cuerno?
Well, isn't that his, kill shot and King Cuerno. That's
no,
his name.
But what I'm asking is, why do you think King Cuerno is his target?
Oh, well, I mean, he was kind of looking up from the rafters, and remember, there was a point in the matchup where King Cuerno did the bow and arrow,
right,
in Killshot's direction. So I think they're on a collision course. Plus, they had.
Was it in Killshot's direction?
Yeah, it was.
Because I remember him doing the bow and arrow suicide dive, but I don't remember him doing anything in Killshot's direction.
He did the arrow shot to Killshot's direction. Commentary even made note of it.
Oh, I must have missed that then.
Yeah, that's why I've been really emphasizing that, dude. Yeah. That's the thing. Plus, I think, didn't they have a match a few weeks back? King Cuerno and Killshot, or was it somebody else? Because
here's, like, I actually just realized this literally less than an hour ago. I'm pretty sure King Cuerno is literally the mascot to Lucha Underground because their logo looks almost exactly like his mask.
I know, right? How crazy is
that? but he lost tonight, and not only did he lose, he ate the pin. So it does make sense that he would sort of get demoted, and yeah, Killshot at this stage in their careers, Killshot is definitely a downgrade from what King Cuerno has been doing for the last few months even. So it makes a ton of sense that these guys would feud.
I will say, though, I'm glad Killshot hasn't been forgotten about because there's been a lot of focus lately on Big Rick and his relationship to the Mac, which I think that kind of came to a halt last week. But now Killshot here is stepping up. And another thing I have to say, because the ending finish, you said Cuerno eats the pin, and Drago gets the Dragon's Tail after putting the poison mist in Cuerno's face. He spits it in there.
I love that. That's so perfect for Drago, too. Of course the dragon spits poison.
Yeah, and I love that
he can't breathe fire, but he can still, he's got the poison mist. I love it.
And you know what? You can really cheer him on and mark out for a moment like that, even though he's a babyface, because he has the whole world stacked against him.
Yep.
And the idea that
it was basically a 3-on-1 handicap tornado tag match.
Yeah, pretty much. Because again,
Cage and Cuerno were a solid team. Like, those guys barely did anything to each other. They didn't touch each other till very late in this match. They were just doing team moves to everyone else. Hernandez was doing some offense to those guys. Hernandez kind of felt like a tweener here. He kind of felt like, and then I really enjoyed the work that he did do in this match, but he kind of felt like the odd man out here because you have this whole story being told between Cage and Cuerno where they're like, they've been tag partners before and they have this respect for each other, but both of them want to win this match, so they don't want to just kind of, let the other guy slip by. But then at the same time, you've got the story being told about Drago trying to win his way back into the temple. Hernandez was just kind of there. And he's great, and he had an amazing suicide dive tonight, but he's just there. Like, there's no real story to him being in this match. And there should have been, because Drago lost. He got banned from the temple originally because of Hernandez, but they didn't really do anything about that beyond mentioning it a few times on commentary. Like, the match itself, if you had just watched the match without commentary, you would have never known that Hernandez and Drago had as much heat as they should have.
Right, and you know what? Knowing Lucha Underground, you watch. I think they're going to pick that up again in the coming weeks. Now that Drago is back on the Lucha Underground roster, I think they're bound to cross paths again Because,
Well,
I mean,
that's if Drago gets out of episode 32 alive.
That's very true. That's very true. But I think Cueto, because he has it out.
I said 32. I meant 33. That's not next week. It's the following week.
Right. I think Cueto has it out for Drago.
Yeah.
And he's just going to keep putting these walls in front of him. And I think Hernandez is going to be one of those walls. Because Hernandez...
If he gets to it. That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Like, episode 33 comes around, Drago might be banned from the temple in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
In the way that he's dead.
Yeah, exactly. So I love this finish. Drago getting the win that way. Kill shot, Cuerno's intriguing. I will say this too, and maybe this will happen in season 2. Very intrigued about the prospect of a Cuerno Cage matchup. In fact, one of my favorite moments in this match came from their stare down, and then Drago tried interrupting it with a crossbody off the top. Cage catches him, and it's pretty much just like, oh, this happened. And then he just doesn't.
That's what this whole match felt like, though. This entire match to me felt like King Cuerno and Cage staring each other down, talking trash, and all of these other things happening around them. And anytime somebody tries to interfere on their trash talking, they just pick them up and throw them away.
Yeah.
That's what this entire match felt like to me, until towards the very end when they started doing the outside the ring stuff.
Right.
Which was great because, like, you had Cuerno and Drago on the outside, or not Cuerno, Hernandez and Drago on the outside. Or no, it wasn't Hernandez either. It was Drago and Cage on the outside, and Hernandez did his amazing suicide dive over the top rope. And then next thing you know, freaking King Cuerno comes through with the amazing bow and arrow suicide dive. Easily, I'll say it again. I've said it before, but for those of you who haven't been with us since we started reviewing Lucha Underground, to me, King Cuerno has the best suicide dive in the business, and he is the only guy that does a suicide dive under the top rope that actually looks really, really good to me.
Absolutely.
Because every other great suicide dive is always over the top rope. It's either like Phoenix's corkscrew splash, or, like Rollins with his over the top rope plancha, like all kinds of different stuff that's over the top rope that looks great. The middle rope stuff kind of usually falls short to me. But then Cuerno comes through and he's got the middle rope dive that just looks destructive.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I actually think it's one of the most beautiful moves in wrestling right now, at least that you and I actively watch.
Yeah, because normally it literally just looks like the guy is diving, punching whoever they're going towards, and then falling on the ground. Like, it would hurt the guy doing it more than anything. But when Cuerno does it, it's like he does he turns his body into a missile. And just like headbutt and forearm and elbows and shoulders, it feels like they all at some point or another connect with his opponent, and he lands on top of them rather than landing on the floor.
Right.
It's so much more brutal than anyone. Like, you compare a King Cuerno bow and arrow suicide dive to a Jey Uso suicide dive, and it's like comparing a freaking porn star to a grandpa. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy and Jey Uso with their dive compared to Cuerno's, it's grade school. It's amateur hour, whereas Cuerno, I think, has really perfected it. Yeah. One more thing I want to say very quickly about this match, too, because me and Ashton always make our little side predictions of who we think's going to win. I love that Lucha Underground's got me so off my game that the staring it in your face pick being Drago, I'm like, I'm not so sure it's Lucha Underground, so I'm using the fact that it's Lucha Underground, and now that's even messing with me, because I'm like, oh, King Cuerno's got this in the bag, and then Killshot shows up, and I'm like, oh, that's,
Well, I mean, then obviously Cage is gonna win, right?
Yeah, right. Like that is the thought process. So great stuff. I love that even when it is like more staring you in the face, so to speak, it still got me a little bit off my game. That's how you know that a promotion's really doing things right, that you can't even accept certainty for what it is. So great win for Drago. Puma comes in the ring afterwards, holds up the, Lucha Underground Championship, has a stare down with Drago, and who knows, that might just be our promotional poster for UltimaLucha, but only time will tell.
It might be, but I highly doubt it will be.
Yeah, because then we get to the segment that Ashton's been kind of, foreshadowing and hyping up for a while now, so why don't you tell everybody how Dario Cueto's day ended? Yeah,
Dario Cueto's day ended by him getting strangled by an amazingly hot woman, so I can't really complain if I was him. So Katrina shows up, and I love the way they set this up too, because she's like literally a ghost at this point. She shows up and just taps him on the shoulder, and he turns around and she's not there, right? So he turns back around and he's looking out at the ring, and next thing you know, I guess he decided that he's just done watching whatever was going out in the temple, and he turns around and there she is, boom, sitting in his chair. She grabs the key from around his neck and turns it pulls it around to the back of him and strangles him with the string that it's attached to, the string, the rope, whatever you want to call it, and says, why was Mil Muertes not in that match? And he says, I didn't think the Mil Muertes wanted a title match. And then she said, every man, whether mortal or immortal, wants power. So why are you in Mil Muertes' way? And he goes, I'm not. And it was just the way that they had this interaction. First of all, it made Katrina look like a total badass because you do not want to mess with this woman. There is literally nobody on the planet that wants to get strangled. Well, maybe some people, but most people do not want to get strangled, and they don't want that to be the way that they go out. And she would have finished it if Cueto didn't give her way. But he did. Next week, we've got the Mundo Puma situation. But the following week, we're going to get Mil Muertes versus Drago in a match to determine who faces whoever wins next week's championship match at UltimaLucha.
And, I was relieved because, Katrina was obviously the imminent threat here, but I was ready to complain on the internet just thinking, Cueto, choose your next few words very carefully. And then he threw Drago in the fire, and I'm like, okay, we're good. So, Cueto saves his own life, and he had a look on his face where, my God, I finally understand what it's like being Justin Roberts. And so, that was something. Yeah, that was really quite a segment. And Katrina, you're right. Like, she just continues to be this really badass, compelling character. I love how Lucha Underground portrays their women, whether ballets and ring competitors or otherwise. She's so good.
She's not even an in-ring competitor, and I would argue that she's still the most powerful woman in this universe.
Well, yeah, look who she's got by her side, man.
Dude, that's the thing, though. Even when Mil Muertes isn't by her side, Mil Muertes didn't strangle Dario Cueto tonight, did he?
No, he didn't.
That's what I'm saying. Katrina is a badass.
Oh, and Ashton, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the final line she left him with. Even that monster you keep locked in your cage
isn't a match for Mil Muertes.
Isn't a match for What a teaser, huh?
I know. Is that gonna be a thing?
Dude, look, here's the thing. Lucha Underground does everything with purpose. I don't think they'd put that line out there in the universe if it wasn't going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Those two are going to lock horns one day, and that's going to be insane.
Dude, here's my thing, though. If Mil Muertes faces Matanza, how? I thought that you could only make gigantic explosions by splitting an atom.
Well, yeah, see, and you'd be incorrect, as will the rest of the population, because when that match happens, I'm going to try and make it to the moon, I'll fail miserably, and then I'll just be like, it was a good run, 23 years.
You'll be on the rocket to the moon, and it'll just completely die out, and you'll be falling back to Earth, and you'll be like, at least I wasn't a part of the gigantic explosion in California that occurred due to Matanza and Mil Muertes colliding.
And then my rocket just hurls towards California, and I'm like, oh, God damn it.
Here comes the wreckage.
And then when I'm like, it's been a good run, because you'll be like, you're only 23. Look, I said good, not long. There's a difference.
Hey, guys, that used to be Boyle Heights. That's where the temple used to be.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude, those two. It's going to be something. And that's how you hype a future matchup. Because we don't even know what Matanza is.
But they're both heels. Neither one of them can use a spirit bomb to kill the other.
Does it matter? Because they're just going to murder everybody. There are two tears here. We don't know what Matanza is, and perhaps even scarier, we know what Mil Muertes is about. Yeah. And, oh my God. You know what?
We have an idea of what Mil Muertes is about, but we've only seen him in one match since his sort of uprising. So we don't really know the full extent of his power, and I think that we're going to get a little bit more clued in on that in 2 weeks, episode 32, when he faces Drago.
I mean, at this moment, because we really don't know the depths of Mil Muertes, I'm inclined to say that Matanza would win by ref stoppage after he eats Muertes' face. But,
Mil Muertes doesn't have a face.
Yeah, that... Oh, what a twist. Oh, my God.
He's only a mask.
Oh, my God.
You can't kill an idea.
They could pull it off, too. Don't joke. They could pull it off, too. You take the mask off, and Mil Muertes is really... Oh my God, an abstract entity that really just feeds on my worst fears? Who would have thunk? So, I guess moving on.
God, I'm about to, you know what? No, I'm not going to reveal my nerd card right now.
Not yet. Keep it close to the vest, but our next
I'm saying, John, is that freaking Mil Muertes is literally a boggart from Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, man.
Do you remember that?
I'm trying to,
it's
man.
It's the thing where they took it out of the closet and it transformed into whatever you're scared of most.
Oh, God, yeah,
that's Mil Muertes. And the fact that that's him and he's taken this form is even more horrifying.
But with that said, I can't top that, people.
I'm trying to interlace way too many fictional universes.
I'm still amazed that you were able to make a parallel between Lucha Underground and Boy Meets Freaking World. So,
no, see, that wasn't even me necessarily making that parallel. I was just trying to come up with something that everyone knows about. I don't think anybody that listens to our show is unaware of Boy Meets World. And if you are, you probably are at least aware of Girl Meets World, because if you don't know what Boy Meets World is, you're probably too young, which means that you're probably more familiar with the more recent show that just came out. But either way, you know what it is, so you're familiar with it. So I wanted everyone to be able to relate to the analogy that I was making.
Absolutely, absolutely. But now, we get to our next segment. I love this segment, particularly on Lucha Underground Reviews, high spots and low shots.
Oh, this is too easy.
You know what? For me, my low shot's Cueto, man. I'm sorry.
Why?
Katrina almost choked your ass out, and now Mil Muertes.
Okay, first of all, look at who did it, and think about, would you really, really dislike that happening from her? And second of all, he's got a litany of just destructive monsters lined up trying to take out frickin' Prince Puma, who he hates the most.
But when somebody has the balls, after almost taking your life, to leave you with, oh yeah, and if you think that you can stop any of this from happening, I just want to let you know that anything you've got behind that door pales in comparison to my monster. Holy shit. Like, that look by Cueto's face, I don't know if his life flashed before his eyes or if he was rethinking his life choices, but regardless, he did some serious thinking after that. I'm telling you, man, I've been saying it for the past few Lucha Underground reviews. This man has got to come up and coming, and it may be at UltimaLucha. I don't know, but he's going to pay the piper sometime.
You know what I absolutely love, too?
What's that?
There is no amount of spoilers that could spoil some of the biggest storylines on this show, because whether you know the results of matches or not, it legitimately doesn't matter, because the best storytelling in this show is done with those cinematic things that isn't in ring, that isn't something that the live crowd gets to see.
Absolutely.
Like, Matanza could have literally been revealed on this set of tapings before UltimaLucha, at UltimaLucha. Doesn't matter. Nobody would know it. Why? Because it didn't actually happen at the tapings. It's a backstage vignette that they probably haven't even filmed yet. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's my thing. That's my thing that I love so much, is that no amount of match spoilers is going to ruin some of the biggest storylines in this promotion.
Definitely,
so
completely.
Even if you're one of those people who has to know everything before you get to see it on television, who looks up every spoiler ever, which John and I used to be, but we've broken our habit. At least I have. John still looks up NXT spoilers sometimes. But we've broken that habit, but still there are a lot of people out there that look up spoilers religiously. And even if you look up Lucha Underground spoilers, you might find out who wins certain matches and who certain champions are going to be and that kind of stuff. But you're not going to know who Matanza is. You're not going to know what happens to Cueto in the end, if Cueto has an end this season at all. Anything like that. You're not going to know anything like that. And that's the most... Black Lotus. Black Lotus hasn't made a single appearance. Like, if you only go to the tapings and you don't watch the show, you don't have any clue who Matanza or Black Lotus are. You just don't know.
Right.
Because their only appearances on this show have been pre-taped, cinematic sort of vignette, video package style tapes that nobody who was in the temple during the tapings knew about.
Yeah, perfectly said. I can't really add any more to that. So Cueto is my low shot, again, to reaffirm that. Who is your low shot?
I think, it's one of those things where, to me, my low shot comes down to three people. It's either Blue Demon Jr., Pimpinela Escarlata, or King Cuerno. I think that of those three, Blue Demon Jr. had the worst night, because Pimpy got the lick of death, which is ominous, but people have been lick of death before, and they've been back. Blue Demon Jr. was told specifically, I want to make sure you're not rusty, and then he proceeded to get destroyed.
Right.
So, and King Cuerno, even though he got pinned, he still has a future, because right around the corner, he's got another feud waiting for him in Killshot. But
Right.
Blue Demon Jr., I think this might have been the last time that we see him in Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this was just him, furthering his story, and that's just kind of him, going about his way.
Unless he gets 2 partners and we get a trios match between the 3 of them and the crew.
Right. Yeah, and that very well could happen.
Maybe he brings in Dr. Wagner Jr. and El Solar.
Maybe. I mean, hell, they were pretty beast at the AAA World Cup tournament.
They were so entertaining. Easily my biggest surprise of the night, because I did not expect to really enjoy their work, and they were so good. The submissions, though?
Oh, you know it. Okay, high spot. This becomes a little bit more difficult.
Oh, this is so easy. We should have a co-high spot, John.
We should. We should, and I think we will. So in that case, I'll do an honorary high spot. And I don't think I'd be staying true to me if I went with anybody else but Johnny Mundo.
That's my high spot.
That was your high spot.
That's why I said that we should have a co-high spot, because holy balls, who had a better night tonight than Johnny Mundo finding out that he's getting a freaking 60-minute Iron Man match for the title next week?
Oh my god. I'm sorry. Almost blacked out there.
Have you ever seen him in a match longer than like 20 minutes?
No, dude, and again, I'm so hyped for so many reasons. First Iron Man match with him in it.
Has he ever been in a singles match for any championship ever that you know of?
Yeah. He had the Falls Count Anywhere match with The Miz for the WWE Championship.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He had a World Heavyweight Championship match with Jeff Hardy. And any
of
other
course,
one-on-one
have
matches?
them all memorized.
I don't know if he's had any other one-on-one matches, because I don't count the ECW Championship, so I'm not even bothering with that.
Oh.
But the WWE or World Heavyweight title, I think those were the 2 one-on-one matches that he's gotten for it. And but I mean,
of course, the one against The Miz was just ridiculous.
You know what though, and this is the truth. I don't think I've ever been more excited than him going after the Lucha Underground Championship, because to me that championship is representative of just the future of how wrestling is portrayed and communicated to a television audience. That's what's got me so excited, because, I mean, WWE, you could be WWE champion, but nothing's really going to change. When you're the Lucha Underground champion, I think you really are one of the poster boys for the future, because the way they do wrestling is so different. So that's why it really means so much to me, and that's why I'm going to at least make him my – I totally misread that situation, though, because you said he was your high spot. So I guess, I'll make him my high spot then. If you're going all in, that's our co-high spot. But then – conversely, I'll make my honorary high spot then Drago, because what a redemption story for him right now. He's going to face a hurdle, but, tonight he redeemed himself.
All right, I can dig that, yeah.
Do you have any honorary high spots you want to go over, or do you just want to keep to your co-high spot?
You know what? My honorary high spot's Katrina, because she was a badass tonight. She got to do a lick of death, which, I mean, it was kind of unfortunate, because that's just a lot of makeup to get on your tongue, and that's just kind of gross. But she got to do a lick of death. She got to steal someone's soul via her tongue. And she got to strangle someone, and she got what she wanted for 2 weeks from now. So she had a really, really, really good night tonight for her.
Absolutely. Completely agree. With that said, partner, is there anything else you want to say about this show?
It was amazing. And next week is going to be bonkers. We've never done live reactions to Lucha Underground. We should have for Aztec Warfare, but we never have yet. And we're going to for next year's Aztec Warfare, and there is going to be a next year's Aztec Warfare, no doubt about it.
And that's the best news of them all, and how appropriate that our first live reactions, for Lucha Underground, to make them the best possible live reactions, of course. Johnny Mundo for that World Championship.
Yep. And we know it's happening too. That's the great thing, is that it's not like with Raw where, John Cena is doing an open challenge and there was a rumor on the internet, so let's record. No, we know that Johnny Mundo is getting a 60-minute Iron Man match for the Lucha Underground Championship. The entire freaking show is going to be 99.9% Johnny Mundo.
Yeah, to Morgan Freeman and to whoever else made this possible.
Rattle off some of those nicknames, John.
I love it. Mundo's nicknames?
Yeah.
From what I remember, the Shaman of Sexy, the Ambassador of Abdominals, the Guru of Greatness. And I don't know if there are any others. Those are the 3 that always stuck out with me. But hopefully after next week...
We're going to eat your lunch, brother.
We're going to eat your lunch, Johnny Rudo. And hopefully after next week...
That's right, Johnny Rudo.
One more name, Lucha Underground Champion.
Champion, yes!
I'm going to break the internet if it happens. I'm warning everybody. I don't care who your provider is. You better kiss it goodbye. Because if that shit happens... You're done.
Unless you have Google Fiber, because those guys are immaculate.
Yeah, and I still want fiber optics in my internet. But regardless, I already gave my little hype there earlier, so I'm not going to emphasize it anymore. I just really hope that you guys join us next week, because I think it's going to be really special, again, regardless of...
Shout out to Google Fiber. We could use a sponsor.
Yeah! My God. So with that said, because I don't want to dwell on it anymore, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best
That's right.
wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. I have been loving the comments I've been reading lately, the feedback, the viewership. We have got the best audience in the world. I thank you guys so much, so keep it up. What did you think of Lucha Underground this week? Over or under that I have 3 or 4 heart attacks in the course of this 60-minute Ironman match? You can start putting in your bets now in the comments section. What do you think about Matanza and Mil Muertes, that future clash? What's your favorite storyline going right now? Be sure to take the conversation over to Tweetoth, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook where I can tell you the Lucha Underground fans, they grow in number each and every week. However, if you're more of a minimalist in conversation and you want to keep it to a minimum at myself and my cohort and commentary here, I have great news for you, because Ashton's got your best interest at heart, because he made a TwitWoW subreddit where you can talk about all topics wrestling with either him or I. Just pose your questions, whatever's on your mind, and we will see you again for our NXT review, where finally, after much anticipation, you will hear the NXT Universe in Full Sail say, Joe is gonna kill you. Until then, tune in. Peace out.